Howdy guys. Today we're going to be going over Eldlich-Dinosaurs. To start up our lineup of monsters, we're going to have 3 copies of Soul-Eating Oviraptor. Running this at 3 is a no-brainer. It's one of the best searchers in the game. When it's normal or special summoned, it can add you a dinosaur monster from your deck to either your hand or grave. And additionally, it can, at any point during your turn, blow up a dinosaur on field in order to resurrect one in grave. Since Babycerosaurus and Petit Pteranodon can summon you monsters from deck when blown up, this comes in handy to build the size of your field. Next up, 2 copies of Animadorned Archosaur. On normal or special summon, it can blow up a dinosaur, ideally baby or petite, in hand or field, in order to search you a double evolution pill. Single copy of Miscellaneousaurus. You'd be playing it at 3 if it wasn't limited to 1. It's limited to 1 for its ability to protect your dinosaurs on field for an entire main phase, so functionally for a turn. And in addition, it's a great extender for being able to banish itself from grave to summon from deck. Under normal circumstances, you would use this to summon your Animadorned Archosaur. Triple copies of Babycerosaurus, the not once per turn crack extender of the deck. When it's destroyed by card effect, it can summon a level 4 or lower dinosaur directly from the deck, including other copies of itself. During an ideal combo, you'd be summoning this at least twice, potentially even 3 times. 2 copies of Petit Pteranodon, which does something very similar. When it's destroyed by card effect, it can summon dinosaurs from the deck. This time, it's level 4 or higher. So you'd be using this to bring out, say, Dino Wrestler Pankratrops as a minor interruption, in addition to your Lagia and your UCT. Single copy of Giant Rex. You only need the one because you search it during your combo. If you banish it off of Double Evolution Pill or UCT's self-summoning effect, it'll summon itself back, which will then make for a handy Xyz material. 2 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, one of the best boss monsters in the game. It can, during either turn, including your opponent's turn, destroy a monster in your hand or field in order to flip all of their monsters face down. Monsters which are flipped cannot, by game mechanic, be used as Link, Synchro, or Xyz material, meaning that any of those strategies automatically get shut down. In addition, during your turn, it has the aggressive ability to attack all of your opponent's monsters once each, with its high attack stat of 3,500, and if they're in defense position, it can send them to grave by effect and burn your opponent for 1,000. Single copy of Dogron the Mad Flame Kaiju. Since you can search it off of Soul-Eating Oviraptor, you only need the one. Dinosaurs is one of the few decks that can actually search a kaiju, meaning that it inherently has an out to any unaffected monster. In addition, if you want to avoid yourself being kaiju'd, simply summon it off of Petite to your side of the field, since neither player can control more than one kaiju. This would then prevent your opponent from kaijuing you. Single copy of Dino Wrestler Pankratrops, the only useful Dino Wrestler, which is so useful that it's limited to 1. It can summon itself if your opponent has more monsters than you do, and no matter how it gets onto the field, it can tribute itself to blow up any card on your opponent's side of the field. Single copy of Tyranno Infinity. Usually it's just to summon during your combo without wasting any of your other level 4s. However, if later into the game you have a large number of banished dinosaurs, which can happen, it then can be a very high beat stick, which will allow you to out your opponent's things. Triple copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. So for starters, he's not a dinosaur, meaning that you can banish him off of Evolution Pill if need be, and he can send himself to the grave along with any spell or trap in order to do the same to one of your opponent's cards. Then, once he's in the grave, he can send a spell or trap you control to the grave in order to return himself to hand, and then summon a zombie monster from your hand, typically himself, with a huge attack boost and destruction immunity. Starting up our lineup of spells, triple copies of Fossil Dig. It can add you any level 6 or lower dinosaur from deck to hand. So if you don't open with Soleating Oviraptor, you'll use this to go looking for it. Or if you do open with Soleating Oviraptor, you can use this to go and get your Misk or your Baby Ceratosaurus. 2 copies of Double Evolution Pill, which can summon your Ultimate Conductor Tyrannos from deck by banishing from hand, but ideally from grave, a dinosaur and a non-dinosaur. So if you do your combo right, you should be banishing the Giant Rex, which can then resurrect itself, and a Link monster, or an Eldlich in a pinch. Triple copies of Lost World. So once you summon one of your dinosaurs, this can give your opponent a token which acts as a minor floodgate by preventing them from targeting things on field. In addition, you can use Soleating Oviraptor's effect to destroy the token, but then chain Lost World to destroy something in the deck instead, destroying your baby or your petite to then summon something from the deck and proceed with your combo like that. Additionally, it lowers the attack of all things which are not dinosaurs. Single copy of Terraforming, just go looking for your Lost World. Triple copies of Forbidden Droplet. Since this is a particularly aggressive variant of dinosaurs, you want to max out on the going second broken cards. Triple copies of Dark Ruler No More for the same reason. Break your opponent's board, it isn't going to break itself. And since your opponent will, by going first, have the leisure to set up their negates, you want things that can surpass those. If you're not a fan of those cards or can't afford them, just go for Kaijus, which are also quite good and accomplish similar effect. I just happen to like these in this build because you can use them with the Eldlich. Double copies of Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. It can special summon an Eldlich from the deck or the grave, and during a different turn from the turn that effect was used, it can banish itself from the grave in order to set any golden land, spell, or trap directly from deck. Two copies of Conquistador of the Golden Land. This is a pretty good interruption if you've got your Eldlich on field. It can summon itself, and then if you have Eldlich on field, it can blow up one of your opponent's cards. Additionally, it can banish itself during the end phase in order to set your Elixir from deck. Haquero of the Golden Land, similarly, he can summon itself as a zombie monster, and then if you have Eldlich, it can hit a card in your opponent's graveyard, and it can banish itself from grave during end phase in order to set an Elixir. Going into our extra deck, you'll see that we've got a selection of Link monsters and mostly rank 4 Xyz. Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir, or as I like to call it, Mystic Mine on Legs, can paralyze your opponent's fields by forcibly switching your opponent's monsters to defense position and negating their effects for up to 2 turns. Number 101, Silent Honor Arc, is a convenient way to bust any monster during the main phase if for whatever reason you have a reservation about doing so during battle phase with UCT. He's just generic utility. Feel free to swap him out for something better if you want. 2 copies of Evolzar Lagya. So he can negate a normal or a special summon, and that can stop some combos dead in their tracks. And he can also negate a spell or a trap, so if you see your opponent set something in back, and that's the part of their board that you don't quite have a way to out, build that, and then if it happens to be a Mirror Force, it's not really going to be doing much to you. 2 copies of Evolzar Dolka. It can, up to twice per turn, negate monster effects. That's not once per chain, meaning that if your opponent negates it, you can negate the negate. Single copy of Tornado Dragon. He can pop your opponent's back row on a quick effect, so that's convenient for getting rid of unwanted floodgates or ominous, traps, control cards. Single copy of Abyss Dweller. It shuts down effects in the grave, which kills a good number of decks, including other dinosaur decks, so if you happen to go in a mirror match, just use this, and their babysitter resources will do absolutely nothing. Rest in pieces, Shadal. Single copy of Pentastag. If you have this pointing towards your ultimate Conductor Tyranno, it can do piercing battle damage, which is to say that it can damage your opponent's your opponent's life points directly through their monsters, even if they're in defense, making it easily able to dish out in the 10,000 damage range if your opponent has a full board. Single copy of Geonator Transverser. If you get it pointing to your UCT, it can protect itself and the UCT from effects that would destroy them. The amount of times that I've used this, my opponent hasn't read it, and they've tried to either Raigeki me or Lightning Storm me is hilarious. Single copy of Linkuriboh. You're not using it for its effect, it's specifically to get it in grave by linking off the Animadorned Archosaur into it, and then linking it off into Secure Gardna that you're using this. However, Linkuriboh itself isn't actually that terrible, because if you can get the other Animadorned on field later on in the game, you can then reborn that Linkuriboh and have it mess with your opponent's battle phase. Single copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax, because yeah, UCT and Eldlich are really big beat sticks, but you do get stuff out there that can produce bigger beat sticks, like for instance Utopias, or even Dragon Maids, or even Equimax. That's where this guy comes in handy, because he gains the attack of whatever he battles. So if your opponent, say, pulls off a 6 Samurai infinite combo and gets their infinite attack monster, you can still one-up them with this. Apollousa Bow the Goddess. Easy way to get 4 negates on field. However, she's less necessary in this deck because Dolka does the same thing as she does, but a bit better. She's still a good utility to have, for the fact that she can get things directly into the grave when you summon her, rather than Dolka, whose materials remain attached until activation. Finally, a single copy of Nightmare Griffin. He can limit the amount of effects your opponent can activate, meaning that he's a minor floodgate. Pair that up with a UCT, and your opponent may be in trouble unless they're playing a back row heavy deck. Alright, that'll be all. Have fun.